That is an all too common Bengals L, and this is common Bengals W. And this is the only common Bengals W that you've seen all year in the sense that the Bengals are winning games because they've won one, they've lost four. They are about 4 plays away from being 5-0. But you know what? There's a lot of things that, if happened, would have changed the world, that being one of them. The Bengals lose week one on a fumble at the goal line from a guy that we have not seen since. They lose week two because their MVP caliber quarterback fumbled the ball and the Chiefs run it back for 6. They lose week 3 because they can't get one stop against, albeit an incredible rookie quarterback, can't get one stop against a rookie quarterback. They win week 4 barely. And then week 5, there are just a gaggle of things. A costly interception that I cannot possibly put on Joe Burrow after this. The Bengals wouldn't have even been in the game if not for him. Or Jamar Chase. A missed kick that had a rough snap, a worse hold, and didn't get executed. But I put a lot of that on the coaching staff and the inability for DBs to do their job. There's a lot of bad that came out of this game. A whole lot of bad that came out of this game. Tim says, are the Bengals allergic to winning? It certainly seems that way. I sat on this for a few days. I was there at the game, and I have never been so excited to not go to a Bengals game for the next 2 or 3 weeks as I look at things right now. I'm so glad they're on the road the next 2 weeks. And I understand there are people that are even in national media that are looking at the schedule and saying, well, you know, I can't write them off yet because they got this schedule coming up. Guess what? They had the Commanders. They had the Patriots. They had this opportunity. They should have been 4-1. At the very least, 3-1. Oh, man. The defense is absolutely miserable. One of the worst defenses I have ever seen from the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I want to say this. With us as concerned as we were about the Derrick Henry run, I had a feeling that early on in the game we would get torched in the secondary because we would sell out for the run. I thought the Bengals, at least to start the game and into the first 3-ish quarters, did a pretty good job containing Derrick Henry compared to what we thought it would be. Now, the numbers on this definitely skewed. Definitely going to be adjusted by that monster run that Derrick Henry had. But I thought that they did a really, really good job of containing him early on. And it helps when you get McKinley Jackson back, when you got Chris Jenkins, when you got Trey Hendrickson there, when you got Myles Murphy there. I'm not as concerned about the defensive line. BJ Hill as well. Sheldon Rankins is going to be back. I think the defensive line will be at least average or below average. And average and below average is all you need for the Cincinnati Bengals on defense to win games. However, when your secondary plays like some of the worst play you've ever seen, especially in the safety room, things are going to be bad for you. It's going to be really, really bad. Where do I start? Possibly. I'm not going to go blow by blow because this was a shootout. It was abundantly clear this was going to be a shootout, but I am going to drop some numbers. Joe Burrow, 30 of 39 for 392 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. It makes me sick that Joe Burrow is having the best season of his career. Jamar Chase having the best season of his career. The Bengals are 1-4. Patrick Mahomes is having the worst season of his career. As far as quarterback play, not even a top 10 quarterback this year. Listen, he'll get there. We know that. He's incredible. But they're 5-0. Lamar Jackson is outstanding. It's hard for me to loathe or dislike or hate the Ravens as a division rival because I like the way that they have done things the last number of years. When you've got the type of talent that Lamar Jackson is, and you've got Zay Flowers, and then you still go out and get Derrick Henry, that's what we want to see the Bengals do, but on defense. Now, they were able to do that with Trey Hendrickson, but you let a guy like Jesse Bates go. You draft to keep the elite players. That's why you do it. You draft hoping you'll hit. That way you can keep them. That's it. There's no replacing a Jesse Bates. Lamar Jackson is incredible. The things that he is able to pull off. By the way, he should have been sacked 5 or 6 times in this game. He got sacked once for 3 yards. He should have been sacked for 10 yards at least 2 or 3 times. The Bengals defense gave up on the play. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. There were a couple fumbles. He recovered one. He lost another. That's the risk you run with a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, who is going to run the ball and will get a little bit ahead of the play. But it is shocking to me that every team in the NFL passed up on Lamar Jackson twice. And by that, I mean the draft, and I mean also when he was available for trade. Like, I was begging the Ravens to trade him. When they were going back and forth and doing their thing, I was like, please trade him. He's incredible. I don't want to deal with him in the AFC North. I don't want to have to go against him. He's incredible. But you know, and we thought that last year getting Geno Stone, it's like, okay, we needed help in the secondary. That allowed the Bengals to move Dax Hill to corner, which that move was great. Dax Hill has been our best corner this year. Cam Taylor-Britt has got abused the last 2 weeks. He's been bad the last 2 weeks after being a really good corner last year and this year for the most part. So we pick up Geno Stone, and I got to admit, I was excited about it. Taken from a division rival, 7 interceptions last year. However, I got to admit, I looked at those picks, and that inflated his worth for sure. The number of picks he had last year. The majority of them were on some of the worst passes you've ever seen in your life. Going to get to some of the chats here. If it's a personnel issue that falls on the GM, oh, my friend, it's a lot of issues. What will it take for the front office to make coaching changes? Will Joe have to make the call? I think a frustrated Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase will probably lead to it, but also I think they like Zach Taylor personally. I will say this, from an offensive perspective, the last few weeks, if it's Zach Taylor calling the plays, he's doing very good by and large. I do worry that his success on screen passes in this last game will give him an inflated sense of confidence for those because they don't typically work. But when they go to Jamar Chase and he runs it to the house for 60 or 70, yeah, that will work a lot better than when you're checking it down to Zach Moss or somebody like that, which still works better than what we saw last year. Giving up 130 in the past 4 games is unfathomably bad. Yes, and this is why I think some of it, if not a lot of it, falls on Lou Anarumo and the coaching staff. Listen, I do think that Zach Taylor deserves some criticism, and we will get there. But the Bengals sold out for the run and did pretty well in that first half. But when you give up over 30 points a game for 4 straight games, something's got to change. Something is wrong on a personnel and a coaching issue. The safety room stinks. Von Bell isn't good. Jordan Battle wasn't good either, by the way, when he got in. Geno Stone is one of the worst safeties in the league. If they cut him next year, they save $6.5 million. I mean, I can look at, all the numbers that are associated there and break that down. And I'm still learning about the salary cap. I am going to become a salary cap guy. You just wait and see. There's a lot of good corners coming in free agency next year. There's not a lot of good safeties. Probably going to have to draft a safety high. So the Bengals' new method needs to be retaining elite talent. Some of this comes onto the coaching staff, specifically Lou Anarumo. He was a Jesse Bates merchant. This man has coached himself out of head coaching consideration. This man was under head coaching consideration for a couple of years, and now will be lucky to still have his DC job by week 8. Lucky to have it now. I think Dan Pitcher is doing really good. I think Zach Taylor, for the most part, is doing good. We're seeing more stuff under center. We're seeing more deep passes. Success comes with those deep passes. Let Jamar Chase do what he does. Now, Will he be able to do that with T. Higgins gone next year? That is a whole different can of worms. Is this unstoppable offense that the Bengals do possess going to be able to be an unstoppable offense next year? You need to be getting Jermaine Burton reps. You need to get him ready to be that playmaker. Yoshi Voss is good in a pinch as well. I think he's a perfectly serviceable number 3. But fixing one problem next year is going to leave a wide open hole for that number 2 wide receiver. I know I'm all over the place right now. Lou Anarumo sucks. He's not good right now. Everybody, including me, many of the fans, were saying, get a veteran corner. Right now, I wish they would go get Eli Apple or literally any veteran safety available. I mean, he's a corner. Get him for the corner room because Dax Hill got hurt. Dax Hill's out for the year, by the way. That fucking sucks. Pardon my language. I try not to curse on this show. Dax Hill's out for the year. That's going to make his 5th-year option really hard. He was incredible. No ego on that guy. Switched multiple spots. You have Mike Hilton out right now. That sucks. Probably going to have to pay more than you need to for him now to keep him. It is a mess on the defensive end. Now, on the line, I'm feeling way more confident about that. Miles Murphy is back. Sheldon Rankins is going to come back. BJ Hill is there, but he's gone next year. They drafted ahead for that. They drafted ahead planning for Chris Jenkins, who's looking decent, McKinley Jackson, who's not looking great, but just got started there. Miles Murphy is emerging. He should be a guy next year. Sam Hubbard played very good last week after all that criticism the first few weeks. Sam Hubbard was after it. Got to give him credit where it's due. But too often, the Bengals were not finishing plays. They were giving up on plays, especially the play where Lamar dashed around the field, almost got sacked, stiff-armed Sam Hubbard, threw it to the end zone. The secondary gave up. There should have been an attempt to deflect and knock Lamar Jackson out of bounds on that play instead of just pushing him out of bounds. Offensive line is playing good, playing decent. You know, it sucks that we lost Jackson Kirkland. Cody Ford had to come in a little bit, but Mims, it looks like he's going to be okay. Looks like it, I think. Definitely was a big concern. But Cody Ford did all right. Now, there were a couple times, man, that Burrow got hit hard. Got hit very hard. I like that the Bengals are using Jenkins and Murphy. But there's a lot more that needs to be done on the defensive end. They need somebody now. Orlando Brown Jr. is playing his ass off. Just doing a great job. Now we are getting to the point where I'm looking at things and I'm looking at the PFF grades this year. Logan Wilson has done great. Akeem Davis-Gaithers needs to be playing more. He needs to be staying as a Bengal as well. But Von Bell, woof. Get him off the field, man. He is slow. I want to see Josh Newton playing more. I want to see a lot of those guys. I want to see Tyson Anderson playing more. Tyson Anderson absolutely has to play more. DC options, if you like Lou, if Lou gets the boot. I'm not as educated on that. I'm not. You see any changes coming to the coaching staff before the year's end? If the Bengals go 1-5, 1-6, yeah, they gotta. So as I look, the free agent corners are plentiful next year. They're going to have to draft a safety. The D-line is young. So I think if you retain a D-lineman next year, Rankins or Hill, you're probably in decent shape there. This is the O-line we've waited for, and we have him under contract through next year. Cordell Volson's going to want paid after that, and probably should be. Matt Lee next year, or after next year, will probably emerge as the center as things stand. But the thing that stood out to me so much of this game was Joe Burrow said, I got to play perfect. And he threw one interception. And as a result, the Bengals lost. Now, the reason Joe Burrow is saying, I got to play perfect is coded language. It is coded language for him saying, our defense sucks really, really bad. So I have to be perfect in order to make up for how terrible they are. That's the long and the short of it. That's it. Bengals punted 5 times. Ravens punted 3 times. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to in the game. Who punts more or who can get the ball and actually score the 7 instead of the 3. Evan McPherson, missing a kick. Listen, this one was rough. This situation was set up, and I was with my wife at the game even after Jamar Chase scored, and I said, I don't feel good about this game. And I tweeted at about 3:15. I said, I think by 4:15, we are talking about who the Bengals draft next year. And I am sad to be right about that. So here's where it comes down to Zach Taylor. You get the ball back in overtime. You have an opportunity after a great situation, great fumble return, to put the Bengals in position. I understand that these days 50 to 55 yarders are very common for kickers to make. I think it is outright stupid when your quarterback is performing at an MVP level to rely on that. They had 9 stacked in the box, and they ran the ball 3 times. And Zach Taylor said that Joe Burrow called an audible on that. If Joe Burrow called an audible with 9 in the box and his star wide receiver right up over the top, then that was dumb on his part. But then guess what? You throw the ball on 2nd down, or you throw the ball on 3rd down. Now, Zach said, I've seen them too many times get 30 seconds on the clock and come up the field and get in the field goal range. You play to win the game. Here's a fun stat. Since Zach Taylor took over in 2019, there have been 29 3-point games for the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals have won 9 of them. If you want to get crazy and include preseason, which I say in this situation is an example of how you coach, 9 of 36. A quarter of the games that Zach Taylor has coached that have been 3-point games, preseason, regular season, postseason, they have won. That is an embarrassing state of affairs. Zach Taylor coaches in a cowardly manner, and you see it all the time. They get a 10-point lead, they start running the ball. I was shocked that they had a 3-point lead and Jamar Chase was thrown. I'm not surprised he was thrown screen pass. I just don't think that he really expected Jamar Chase to take it to the house for 60, right? By the way, great catches by Jamar, great catch by Yoshi Voss. T. Higgins is great, couple touchdowns. Gonna miss that guy. I understand you can't pay 2 wide receivers that amount of money, but then you get a bad snap, you get a bad hold, and I saw a lot of people going like, why not Browning? It's because Rico is getting the reps in practice while Browning is out there practicing to be a possible quarterback. Drew Chrisman, man. I don't want to give him too much attention because he's trying to make a name for himself as a personality, and I get it. But I wondered after Kevin Huber, his career effectively ended. Drew Chrisman came in and did solid, besides, one of the worst punts that the Bengals could have asked for that cost them an AFC championship game. And then they drafted Brad Robbins, and I was like, damn, not even giving Drew Chrisman a chance. Even when Brad Robbins was historically bad, Drew Chrisman didn't get a chance. Starting to see why Drew Chrisman didn't get a chance. Got cut from a UFL team this year as well. Man, we were all rooting for him. And now we're just like, all right. I look back at right now the closure of Cincinnati Bengals Super Bowl window the moment they let Jesse Bates walk out the door. They let Jesse Bates walk out that door, and things have not been the same since. Right? That's it. They let a 25, 26-year-old go. I know he makes a lot of money, but he is the type of player that you draft to get. He's the type of guy that you beg to have. And now he might be the best player on the Falcons. Gutting. 4 years, $64 million. Give me that all day based on what we see right now. $18.5 million cap hit. I would rather have one Jesse Bates and literally anybody else. I'd rather have Jesse Bates and Tyson Anderson out there with no depth behind them than Von Bell and Geno Stone right now. That's where I am. Chase Brown, I love the way that he runs. I'll say that. He runs very aggressively. He is the lead back now. That is a thing. So that's what we know. Yoshivas is the number 3 receiver. Trenton Irwin, probably there for depth, but we've likely seen the last of him with important, reps there. I'll say this from the offense: throw the ball to Jamar and T. Jamar, 10 of 12 with targets, 193 yards, 2 touchdowns. T, 9-14, 83 yards, 2 touchdowns. Cool. Chase Brown's 3.8 yards a carry was greatly misrepresented, by the way, because of those last runs. But Zach Moss, 9.3 yards per reception. Sam Hubbard had a sack, 2 TFLs. Good for him. We got a Geno Stone problem. We got a Von Bell problem. We got a secondary problem. Unless Cam Taylor-Britt can turn it around, and he had a couple of deflections, I'll give him that. He's been getting torched. The defensive line, I do not have as much of an issue with. Also love seeing Injong Meta getting to play a little bit. Geno Stone wasn't that good. He was in a good scheme. I believe that, buddy. I believe that. Israel says Jermaine Burton needs more reps, needs the experience to be a wide receiver 2 or 3 next year. Yes, I agree. Because I believe in Yoshivas as a number 3. I do not believe in him as a number 2. I believe Jermaine Burton can be a number 2. But I don't know if they're going to get to that situation now. I'm sure there's plenty of things that I didn't bring up during this game, but like the defense didn't get a stop. The secondary sucks. They didn't finish tackles and finish plays. Lou Anarumo sucks. Zach Taylor coaches like a coward. Bad snap, bad hold. Forced pass, and I know that Jamar Chase took credit for it, but listen, when you throw that slant all day, or took the blame for it rather, when you throw that slant all day, eventually you're going to get figured out. How am I feeling about the Giants game next week? Not good. I see people that are like, well, there still are a few 1-4 teams that have made the playoffs. This defense sucks. I would rather have a scarecrow with Ken Riley's face taped over it standing out there in the secondary than some of the guys that we got out there right now. It's bad, man. It's bad. I saw people saying, "Oh, fair weather fans." No, the team stinks. The team stinks. Now, I think that especially in light of some of the calls we have seen for the Chiefs since then, that should have been a Bengals win. Week 1 should have been a Bengals win. I think at worst the Bengals should be 3-2 right now. It's gutting to know realistically the worst this team should be is 4-1. They got beat by the Commanders. There was no bad call. There was no fumble. They got beat by the Commanders. Week 1, Tanner Hudson fumbled. Week 2, Joe Burrow fumbled, and there was a terrible call. This week, scared play calling. I do not want to see. The only benefit of this, Israel, is that Malik Neighbors is on my fantasy team. Vikings are winning the Super Bowl. Listen, I'm very happy to see how the Vikings are doing. That's a fun story, and it shows you that I don't want to say that they give up on quarterbacks too early because of Sam Darnold. Like, this is not a situation like Bryce Young where, well, there we go, 1 year, and then he's done. He had like 4.5 years to start across 2 teams, and he stunk. He was so bad, but now he's all right. Good for him. Guys, I'll be back here probably late Sunday night. We're out.